Hello and good evening, and welcome to another edition of Highbury Matters. I've been very lucky over the past 11 or so episodes that I've managed to get a fantastic guest on. I'm afraid this week I've failed. Sorry, boys and girls. I've got two fantastic guests on. Anyway, I think I can hear the bells going. I think so. The players are in the tunnel. All right, let's go. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Melvyn.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, thanks, Bob. Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Thanks for coming on, the pair of you.
No problem.
Oh, dear me. This is unreal. I mean, Bob, we spoke ages ago about doing this, didn't we?
Yeah, I thought you'd given up on me, to be fair.
No. My word is my bond. You know me. My word is my bond. And how are you, Rob? You all right?
I'm fine, thank you. I was actually in Antigua when you asked me, and I was looking at the message you sent me. It reminded me that that's where I was. That's how long ago it was. But here we are.
Well, I like the plan ahead, but yeah, I think even for me, that's quite ridiculous. Now, don't forget, I've got a spreadsheet. Oh, very professional. I am spreadsheet and everything. Anyway, let's kick off, gentlemen. Right, first you, Bob. When did you first start supporting the Arsenal and going to Highbury? The reason not anymore, we used to ask ourselves why.
Well, it's a family thing. I went on the 7th of December 1968 to see us play Everton. I was 8 years old, went with my dad and my brother, and we won 3-1. We left when it was 2-1 to us, and we were going up to Finsbury Park Tube, as was my old dad's way, slip out a couple of minutes, beat the Crush Boy, and George Graham scored. And I always vowed that when I was older, I wouldn't leave early. But of course, we all do from time to time. So, yeah, Dad was a Gooner. Dad went to Highbury in the late 30s, 37, 38 season.
Wow.
He wasn't a Londoner. He was a Bletchley boy when Bletchley was a market town before Milton Keynes. And he went for his 10th birthday present. All the local kids supported Luton and Northampton and Oxford and stuff. And he had a fascination with the great team of the 30s, was an only child, was very methodical, used to do a lot of reading. Arsenal was the only team for him. And they went down on a steam train and they walked from Euston to Highbury, queued up to get in. And, he was a Gooner. And, of course, me and my brother were Gooners. And although I did have a dalliance with Leeds around the same time as I went, actually, because they were a popular team and I was only a kid.
They were dirty then. Hold on a minute, Bob. They're a dirty team. Now, what's going on?
Dirty Leeds. Yeah,
Dirty Leeds.
I shouldn't really admit this, but I did have because they were a good team and I guess I wanted to rebel a bit. So it didn't last long. And as soon as I went to Arsenal, that was it. There was only one. I came back apparently from that game and apparently I had a Leeds picture up in my bedroom and apparently I went upstairs and took it down and I was a Gooner ever since.
And what about you, Rob?
I become an Arsenal fan because my granddad brought me a kit as a young boy. He actually went to buy me a West Ham kit because he was a West Ham fan, and thankfully they didn't have any, so he brought me an Arsenal kit instead. Flick of a coin. Sliding doors moment.
Yes, absolutely.
So I ended up badgering my dad to take me to Highbury. He was a Palace fan because he used to grow up around that area, South London. And so he took me for the 79-80 season. We played, it was a 1-1 draw against West Brom. Frank Stapleton scored a last-minute equaliser. I remember it so vividly, even though it was so long ago, such a magical moment. But I just remember, as many fans will say, I just remember that moment when you enter the stadium and you're just a young kid and you're so excited and you see the pitch. Nothing ever prepares you for that moment. No. Such a magical moment, seeing the pitch. And the thing that really stood out for me was seeing Brady, he just looked another level. It was just amazing to watch.
I've said it before, Rob, but he would get into any Arsenal team. I know everyone puts their best 11, and people perhaps a bit younger than me would miss him out because it's only a name. But if you actually sat or stood and watched that guy play, you'd realise what a type of player he was. And it's a shame he didn't play mesmerising, really. Yeah,
but he was mesmerised. Even as a young kid, I didn't really know much about football. I could tell, wow, he was something else.
Yeah, we didn't have his best years, did we? He was young when he left.
That's right. I think he might have been 24 or 25, Bob, something like that.
I would have thought he was less than 25, but
I'm not sure. I reckon he's around about that. Yeah,
I would have said 24. But I might. Yeah, you'd probably know more than me, but he was a hell of a player, wasn't he?
Oh, they signed him at Juventus. We played him in the Europe. Was it the Cup Winners' Cup? We played in the semi-final, wasn't it? We knocked them out.
Yeah,
the season before, and they obviously saw what a player he was because football wasn't televised then as it was now, and they realised over 2 legs we got this guy's a bit special. And the story goes, someone told me, and it's very good source, to be honest with you, but Terry Neal was the manager, and there was all this talk about he might go, and he was one of the worst paid. I'm told this is from another source. Players, because he comes through the ranks. A lot of the Arsenal players who came through the ranks weren't as highly paid as the ones that have come, get signed. And he got a phone call from a solicitor saying Liam Brady has just signed for Juventus, and Terry Neal's supposed to don't be stupid. He's training over there, and Terry Neal didn't understand that you don't have to physically be there as a solicitor. You have a power of attorney or something like that. And that was it. I mean, we replaced him with Peter Nicholas. That's right. Not quite the same. I mean, you could never replace Brady, but that was it. Right. Any other? If not necessarily, can be matches or memories of Highbury. Doesn't have to be the 2 seasons we're talking about, Rob. But anything for you? Any real things that stick out or moments?
When I think of Highbury, I just think of my routine. I just love my routine. I used to get there at least an hour before kickoff. I used to go on my own. My brother's 7 years younger than me, so he was a later developer. So I used to just go on my own. I used to be buzzing. I used to wake up thinking, right, Saturday morning, Arsenal today, and I used to go there, get there an hour before with a programme. Used to sit at the back of the North Bank with all the rowdy people because I was a hard geezer, but that's where all the singing and jumping around used to go on. The back of the North Bank. So I used to sit there, literally just sit there, reading my programme, and then just watch the stands fill up with fans over the next hour. And then, as I'm sure you remember, with about half hour to go, it used to just be singing. People used to sing with half hour before the match. And then they used to come on and warm up. And every player used to have a song. And the fans would just go through each player with their own individual song. You don't get that now, do you? Really? You don't. Recently, there's been lots of singing in the concourse, which is nice. But that was lovely, a lovely time, lovely memories of doing that.
And
really
I don't know if you remember, but I used to be in the North Bank, the kids' enclosure before that, and then got taken up to the East Upper where my father and my uncle used to sit. When I was very young, I couldn't go in the North Bank by myself. I was too young. They used to jib me over the top. So I used to be on my father's lap or whatever, or in between my father and my Uncle Joe. And I could smell the smoke, the cigars, the cigarettes. It was part of the whole atmosphere, if you like, because you were allowed to smoke then. It was, and also walking up the steps, everything was so solid compared to if you went to away grounds. What about you, Bob?
Oh, there's a million memories in there. I mean, we were so lucky to have that place, and we all miss it. I looked up Avenel Road only on Sunday, and it's beautiful that we've still got it. You can walk by it. And it brings up a lot of memories. It'd be awful if it was just all been completely knocked down and was just offices or something. So, well, I think from what Rob said, and it's I think it's most kids' memory. The pitch. You know, my first game was in the East Lower, and I remember it was very noisy and lots of swearing, and Dad didn't tell anyone off. You know, and we kind of walked up, and because in the East Lower you went up the stairs, a little bit, not like a half staircase, and then suddenly it was all there, wasn't it? You know, the bright green pitch and the sunshine, and I think that lives with you for forever, really. But yeah, midweek games, you know, European games, European Cup nights. It was a very special place, wasn't it? And of course, with the standing, and then you have the midweek games, and we used to laugh about it. You'd get the office crowd that would come. You know, you could pay on the door, and it'd be 50,000 plus, wasn't it, for a few games? And I remember the year that Villa won the league, didn't they? Ipswich were second, and we were trying to get third, I think, and we beat Ipswich 2-0, didn't we?
That's right, yeah.
And didn't Villa lose as well to Middlesbrough? So although they both lost, didn't Villa win the league?
Ipswich lost. Ipswich lost.
Yeah, we beat Villa 2-0, didn't we?
Oh, right.
So
we beat Villa 2-0, and that was we queued up to get in the North Bank. Then that was a big attendance, and I stood on the North Bank there with my brother and my mate Will, and that was.
And Pele was there, wasn't he? Pele was at that game.
Yes, yeah. That was pretty hectic day. I think there was more people in there than the official numbers. You know, there was a lot of 2 for a tenner, mate, weren't there, going on in those days?
No, that game was very emotional. Very emotional, because when the crowd started singing, when Pele came to the centre spot, all the Arsenal fans were singing "Sign him up." You know, so I thought that was quite emotional. That he was such a great player. You know what I mean? It was like, oh yeah, God, this is it.
It's amazing how some games really stick out, and that game really sticks out, even though I wasn't even there. It's because it was such a big game for us as well, because we had to win to get into Europe.
Yes.
And for Arsenal to get into Europe then it was quite a big thing still. And I didn't go, but I remember being at my playing football grounds, listening to my little transistor radios, they were called in those days.
That's right.
And I was watching. It was I used to live near Whits Cross Hospital, and there was this Whits Cross. I used to watch Whits Cross team play every Saturday. Well, whenever they played, whenever I went at Arsenal, and they needed a linesman, so they gave me a flag. I was only a kid, so I was waving the flag along the line, but listening to my radio as well.
What year was that? Because I'm rubbish with dates.
19. Was it 19?
Oh, we did it the other week. We spoke about that game on Highbury Matters the other week, so I should know.
Yeah. The reason I asked was about the qualification for Europe, because I did a little bit of research on, you know, the seasons we were meant to be talking about, and of course, you brought it home that we were banned from Europe.
Yes, of course.
Not just us.
Yes.
No, sorry. The English teams were banned from Europe.
In today's football, it could be just us, though, Bob, couldn't it? The way the FA treat us, you know what I mean?
Well, we're lucky it hasn't been, isn't it? We could be banned from everything. Yeah.
When was it?
I've got the old programme. Yeah, hold on. Anyway, what are we looking at?
1981, I think.
Oh, 81, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1981. So I was 12.
And what about you, Rob? Any favourite games? Any real, apart from that one, you went?
Loads of games stand out.
Exactly, that's the problem, isn't it? There's so many.
Yeah, I do remember though a couple of games. There was the Everton game, the semi-final. The 2 seasons that we were talking about.
We're going to that later then. We're going to that.
Okay. And I remember there was a Liverpool game as well. I think there was 60,006 people. It was just incredible.
Was that a league game?
Just to see I think that was a cup game again.
Wow.
But I remember turning up at Highbury 2 hours before kickoff, and it was like they were just about to kick off. There was like thousands of people outside, and I managed to get in, and there were like thousands of people still outside. But bear in mind, we've been used to 20,000 people turn up week in, week out at Highbury.
You're right.
They were usual.
If I had to pick one, I would say Anderlecht. I was lucky enough to be in Anderlecht. I guess you were there, Melvyn. But if I had to pick one, that was one.
That's probably one of mine, Bob. I think Anderlecht was my. Yes, it would be. I mean, did you go? Are you saying you went to the away leg?
Not in Anderlecht, no.
No. I'm talking about the Highbury one. The Highbury one for me was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, any game at Highbury, most games at Highbury, when it's a big crowd, it's electric because of for some reason, the crowd seems much bigger, though it isn't, because it's dark. The noise seems to vibrate more. It's just the whole energy. It gets more energy at night match. And that game, I mean, remember, we hadn't won anything for quite a number of years.
17 years it was.
Yeah. Hadn't even got near it. We were, and I don't want to talk about other teams, but we were in the league making up the numbers. Not mentioning any names, obviously. Just making up the numbers, and that's what we were in the league. We had a couple of, basically, that even at that time, we couldn't get past the fifth round of the cup until we won the cup in '71. I'd never seen Arsenal get past the fifth round of the cup. I mean, and we played in the fifth round at home a couple of times before that and got beat. It just couldn't do it. So to win that second leg by 3-0 to win it 4-3 in aggregate, it was just amazing. And I wasn't sitting in the same place, Bob. I mean, transparency here. Bob used to sit a row behind me for years with his father and his brother.
Yeah. That was why that was why I wanted this 86, because 86 was when we got the season ticket in the East Upper.
Oh, right. It was first with them.
That was the first year we met. So that was why I picked 86, because one of some of my favourite years when George Graham first come. But that Anderlecht game, I'd forgotten that because it wasn't all ticket. I just assumed as I grew up that it was all ticket, and I wondered how my old dad got 3 tickets. But it wasn't all ticket. Someone reminded me the West Lower was queue up and pay on the day for the second leg of a cup final. It's bonkers, isn't it? So I must have had the afternoon off of school or the day off. I don't know. I can't.
Took it off.
I wasn't quite 10. I was coming up to 10. So there's bits of it I can remember more than other bits. But yeah, so we must have gone up, queued up, got in. We were in the West Lower, kind of around the halfway line, I think. And I can remember Eddie Kelly's goal, Raddy, when Radford scored, his knees seemed to be level with the crossbar, at the North Bank end. He seemed to be so high. It was that was the one big game, I guess, for me. But there were so many good nights, many good days.
And another game sticks out for me was the West Ham, Arsenal West Ham game, where the smoke bomb game. Did you go to that one in the North Bank?
Tell me more. I don't remember that.
Where the ICF had basically taken the North Bank, and it was just running fights during the game. And I think it was 1980. I think it was, and I was only a kid, and it was very scary. I was actually in the North Bank at the time, but that just sums up the different atmosphere in those days. There was always an edge, wasn't there, when you were at a football game?
You never
experience that now.
During or after a game, you're only safe when you've got in your front door.
Yeah, there's always that edge, but there was something about that though that added to the excitement. Terrible thing to say, I know, but
it's absolutely true. You kind of was up for it, weren't you? Kind of, as a young guy, you kind of went to the game, and I don't know about you, I was excited by it all a bit. I was only on the periphery of it from where you saw bits, but you got a bit excited about it.
It's a world away from what it is now. Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, today I'm frightened to hurt someone's emotions. Emotionally, that's the wrong thing. I can't say. It's a goal, old boy. You might get into trouble at the wrong time, so you've got to be very careful. You don't hurt people. I
once sneaked out. My mum was saying you can't go to the Arsenal Tottenham game. You're not allowed. There's going to be too much trouble. So I said, I'm going to my friend's house. We're going out to play tennis. I obviously went to the Arsenal Spurs game.
Did you come back
Things
with
you
a
had to do.
or not?
Yeah, things you had to do. It's a long game of tennis, Mum.
Right, Rob, at that time, it might have that season or a couple of seasons going forward, who was your favourite player? Or have you already mentioned him?
Right. Growing up was Graham Ritz.
Right.
Used to love Graham Ritz. But as soon as he was on the wane anyway. But when Charlie joined, wow, Charlie was. I loved him. Whenever he wasn't playing, I'd be gutted, absolutely gutted, because we weren't used to such flair players, weren't we? And how he chose us over Liverpool and Man United, incredible.
I'm guessing. Could be to do something to do with London.
I think that might be the.
I'm just guessing. I don't know
the answer. But do you remember his? I was there for his Highbury debut.
Luton, wasn't it? Luton.
I can't even remember. All I do is remember I was there, and I've never experienced it before. As soon as he got the ball, there was a hush over the whole of Highbury as they were watching him do something, some sort of magic, because he'd just come from Celtic. He scored 50 goals in a season. Yeah. And it's like, wow.
My brother was up in Scotland a year or two before they got invited up to a game. And he got to a Celtic Rangers game, and he was sitting with the Rangers crowd because the guy who used to live near us in Ilford was a Rangers supporter. And he said every time Charlie Nicholas got the ball, all the crowd were like swearing, no, don't let him have it. They were so but he never quite hit the highs, in my opinion, of what he could have done. He had so much skill.
No.
He looked like a film star, didn't he? Let's face it. The hair, even the way he didn't run a normal way either. He ran in a funny kind of way, didn't he? Like his chest came first. But I know that sounds silly, but if you watched him run, you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Anyway, but he was.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But he loved the big games, especially against Spurs. And I went away to Manchester around about that time. Oh, don't say I got it in. I'm talking about it now. It might be. I don't know. Anyway, he scored the winner there, and we were up backs against the wall. We were right in a mess, and he popped up with the winner. So he was always the hero, wasn't he, Charlie? Always the hero. What about you, Bob?
Oh, again, there's so many in there. I think if I really had to pick one, it would probably be Bob Wilson.
Different.
I love playing in goal, and I've got his jersey here, the green one with his badge on. So if I had to pick one, I mean, there's so many. I mean, Brady, Stapleton, I loved. Bergkamp was my best favourite ever. But if it was just around Highbury, I would probably have to go with Bob Wilson, because he spanned his period with the club has spanned more than my support, I guess. He would have been he would have been there in '68, although. Yeah, he played. He played in the game that I made my debut in, and he's probably still knocking around the club now in some capacity, isn't he? I mean, I'm sure he goes in and advises. So yeah, if I had to pick one, it'd be Bob Wilson as my favourite.
I mean, he had a great career in television as well. Very articulate man. He actually played for us when he was an amateur, didn't he?
Yeah, school teacher.
Yeah, school teacher. Yeah.
Signed him from Wolves, didn't we? On amateur. He was at Wolves before, I think.
I read his book, and in the book he said that he wanted to go. Nearly went to Manchester United. They went up. I don't know if you read the book, Rob, but he went up to Man United with his father, and they wanted to sign him. And when they went out the room, his dad goes, "Don't you sign him? Football, nothing in it. There's no future in it." And he wouldn't let him sign him, so he then became a teacher. And then I don't know what game. Perhaps he stopped talking. Perhaps his father saw the light, or something happened. I don't know. He became a man and thought, "No, this is what I want to do." I don't know. I don't remember from the book why that happened. And he became, because I remember why he got his place. Do either of you remember? Well, I don't know if you might be too young. Why he got his place in the Arsenal first team? I remember it like it was yesterday. Who did he replace?
Well, Jim Furnell was above him, but there was Fingers Furnell. You older boys called him, didn't you?
Fingers Burnell, yeah. Well, what happened was we played at home to Birmingham City in the FA Cup, I think this round, and we were playing quite well, 1-0 up, not a problem, and they get a corner. I think it might be in the last minute or so, not long from the end. I know that, and the ball got cleared by the Arsenal defence, and this guy, I think it might be Jeff Bowden, I'm not sure, headed the ball from outside the box, a looping one, just a loop, right? So you imagine it, thank you. Take the cigarette out and catch the ball. It went through his fingers and everything. And he never got forgiven for that. And the next game, it might be in the replay, he got beat. I think Bob Wilson got in. And it worked out well. It worked out well because look what a great keeper he was for us. He was perfect for us. And his little trick was taking the ball off of the footballer's feet, didn't he? And he's the one-on-one.
George Best, 71 was probably the prime example. They call it the hedgehog or something like that. It was nicknamed the hedgehog when he went straight in, frontwards. Yeah.
He had and you say that's the one that always comes to mind. Though he did it loads of times against Georgie Best. You think once Georgie Best had the ball at his feet, you just kick off. Don't even bother to score George. It's going to go. I mean, we know that. But he managed to get the ball off him cleanly and everything, and it was like us scoring a goal, wasn't it? Really, it was fantastic.
But what a top man! What a top man! Though, he's a lovely person.
Yeah,
and his book, as you say, his book. I mean, I recommend it to anybody. Not even you don't have to be an Arsenal fan. The book is amazing. It's very emotional as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, obviously with his daughter and everything.
Very emotional. Goes through what happened to the family. And as a result, he set up that fantastic charity. So, top bloke, Mr. Arsenal, I think.
I mean, if you were going to get a player to play for the Arsenal, he epitomised the Arsenal. He's the guy.
The Arsenal, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what you have him in the team. You have someone like I keep mentioning it. Geordie Armstrong was the Arsenal. If you wanted he could never play for
Pat Rice.
Yeah, Pat Rice. Though he could be a bit nasty at times. Pat, quietly, I saw it.
Really?
But if a centre forward was taking a liberty, I remember one game in particular. He quietly got his own back and like, no more now, mate. You've had your fun. Fantastic player, Pat Rice. Fantastic player. Yeah, Arsenal through and through, as the saying goes. Right, now I want to talk about those 2 seasons, gentlemen. We start off with the 86-7 season. I think I was only about 93 then. We came fourth. we came fourth, but something happened earlier before the season started. In fact, at the end of the season, George Graham was appointed our manager. That was a big turning point in the club's history. Amazing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I loved him as a player, George Graham. He was quality. I remember when we signed him, he was just a bit class. He'd never get into that. He'd never pick himself as a player. If George Graham was the manager, George Graham would not pick George Graham the player because he's just strolled out as his nickname. He never came back to tackle back. Perhaps I'm being a bit nasty to him, but I loved him, and he had so much class. Fantastic header of a ball, one of the best headers of a ball I've ever seen. Most certainly in an Arsenal shirt. Terrific header of a ball. Read the game very well. And he could play up front where we bought him from Chelsea, but then he went back to midfield and he was fantastic. Anyway, he became our manager. And as I say, in his first season, we came fourth. So that was quite good. And our top goal scorer was that year?
Martin Hayes.
Very good, yeah. He got 19 goals, but 8 of those were penalties. But he still got 19 goals. FA Cup, we got to the quarter-final where we got beat at home by Watford. I remember that game. I think Barnes played us off the park that day. He was terrific. John Barnes. He was really,
bit of controversy, wasn't there, in that game?
There was actually, yeah. Is it because we had a goal disallowed or something up one end? Or
no,
something?
what it was because that's one game I actually sat in the seats, so I joined you posh lot, and I think it was 2-1, and there was the linesman put a flag up for a free kick to Arsenal. The Arsenal players stopped, but the referee had a blind whistle. He was saying play on.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The Watford players went on. I think Barnes, it was, and just basically scored a goal. And so all the Arsenal players were mental, saying we've stopped because he's waved a flag. The referees spoke to the linesman and said goal, and that was it. 3-1.
That's true. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I remember being gutted because I thought this is a real chance of getting to the FA Cup final. So it's only Watford, and this is the quarter-finals. It's only Watford.
It's only Parlour.
I'm glad you mentioned George Graham, Melvyn, because I was really excited. I can remember being in the car that summer and it coming on. I guess it would have been Radio 2 in those days. I don't think there was a Radio 5. It had been Radio 2, sports bulletin after the news that we'd signed George Graham as manager from Millwall, and he was bringing Theo Foley with him. And I can remember being really excited and meeting up with my dad and my brother either that night or the next day, and we were all really excited about it. And that was big George Graham fan. Of course, he scored, in my first game, and then what a massive part. We talked about Bob Wilson, but what a massive part of the club he was, and what great success he. But it was just so sad it ended the way it did for George, I think, and it was nice to see him back in the family a bit, really, wasn't it? In the last few years, when they've had get-togethers, and he's been welcomed back. And
rightly so. I mean, let's face it, without George Graham, there wouldn't have been an Arsene Wenger, I don't think.
No, he definitely put us on the map. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right, now let's talk about this season. League Cup. Let's face it, the League Cup, Spurs semi-finals. What was all that about? I mean, it was a carbon copy. Every game was the same. Clive Allen scored a goal and we had to get it back.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to have gone to all 3 games, and it's one of the highlights of my Arsenal fan career. It's just fantastic.
I never went to the last game. I was on holiday.
Oh.
Honestly, I remember I was on holiday, and my wife is an Arsenal supporter, not as strong as me, but she is an Arsenal supporter, and she wanted years ago. You used to phone home, didn't you? Hello, are you all right? Yeah, see ya. Boom. But no, she went on. She made a phone call to her mum and dad, and she asked them what the score was, and luckily they knew. And the guy in the next, it was in the foyer. They used to have all the telephone booths next to each other, and the kid next to her, what did you say? Arsenal did what? She goes, they won. They're through to the final. He was cheering because he was there with his pals, all Arsenal supporters. We got to know him, obviously. When we got back to London, met him again. He's lovely, So I remember just missing that big game. And another big game I missed, what was that? Yeah, I was on holiday as well. I think it was from the last pod, it was away to Spurs when we beat them 5-0. I missed that as well.
Yeah, right.
And we were playing while I was in the air.
That was much earlier. That was 70s, wasn't it? 70, 77, 78, 79.
Something like that. The famous
Brady scored.
Yeah, famous goal.
Before my time, that one.
I was stood on the shelf with 4 of my Tottenham mates. That was a weird one. So we'd all gone down on the train, and the only way I could get in was to go with them. And we stood on the shelf, and they obviously all knew I was a gooner, but I just had to shut up, And but yeah, we won 5-0, and that was a bit of a tricky situation. But
that's strange because we're saying times have changed, and yet you got away with that. You would never be able to get away with that now.
Mates that that I've been in school with for years, and weird one. If I'd have opened my mouth or something, I'm sure I'd have got a right royal kicking, wouldn't I? But
that was one game I'd seriously considered just walking out, and that's when the second leg at White Hart Lane, and Clive Allen scored to make it 2-0 in aggregate. I was absolutely I felt so sick. I thought, well, I might as well just go. We're not going to come back from this. We're 2-0 down. We're away to Spurs. And Spurs, what a team they had in those
games. Terrific team. I mean, I might show the programme later. Rob, I might be up on here. I might be able to show you the programme to show you what team they did have. But was it that game or the next one where at half time the Spurs tower told the Spurs fans
it was that game. at
2-0
half-time.
down when we were 2-0 down on aggregate.
Yeah, because I
Like
remember
us,
it. I
like I
was
say,
so angry. So
but doing
angry.
that was Spursy
Yeah.
before things were Spursy. If you know what I'm saying, we never knew the word
Yeah.
Spursy. That if
No.
it was not in our vocabulary then, but it should have been.
I didn't go to that game. I went to the first game at our place, and then I was at the replay.
Yeah, I know that as well.
The replay was absolutely bonkers. I mean, there were so many people in the away end. It was just, it was probably
just for anyone who's watching, and they don't know what we're talking about. We lost 1-0 at Highbury in the first leg, Clive Allen, and then in the second leg, we went 1-0 down, and then we scored 2 latish goals to make it 2-2. And then there was extra time as well. Sorry.
They tossed a coin, Rob, didn't they, for see who's got the next game?
Yeah, but there was half an hour extra time as well.
Oh right,
so it's still 2-2 on aggregate. No away goals in those days. Obviously, nothing coming away goals to benefit us. It's always the other way around. And then they flicked a coin, and it was the playoff, or whatever you want to call it, was at White Hart Lane, and also we were gutted.
And went 1-0 down again, didn't we? Obviously.
And then we went 1-0 down again.
Same guy, Clive Allen.
Yeah, and Clive Allen again. And then second half, we scored to make it 1-1. And within the last few minutes of the game, Rocky scored the winner, and all hell broke loose. I remember I was right near the fence behind that goal, and I remember I was only young, and I was just saying, one more goal, just one more goal, because we could see Wembley. Arsenal could go to Wembley.
You could taste it.
Whoa. And then I saw grown men cry that night on that stadium. It was massive. It was just amazing.
And then we moved on to the final against Liverpool, and there was a known thing. We always break runs or have a broken against us records, and it was that whenever Ian Rush scored a goal, Liverpool always won. Yeah. In fairness, if he didn't score, they'd probably win anyway. Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly.
They were that good. But I went to that game, 1-0 down. Got a goal from Rush, and we just came back to Charlie Nicholas goals. Not saying the cleanest hit either of them, but they all count.
Do you remember the winner? It was like slow motion, wasn't it?
Oh, when some cycles, Perry Groves got past the defender on the touchline. I don't know how he got away. He defied the law of physics, because I thought the guy crashed into him, but he seemed to not touch him. He seemed to go across him without touching him. Took it down to the byline, hit it back, and I think Bob Wilson was in the commentary team behind the goal or something, and he was going like this. We shouldn't have. Was it something like that? The story go. I remember, if you look at the goal, you can see Bob Wilson in the back.
Perry Groves, he did fantastic, I thought, for that goal. But he was also really good in the whole game. I thought Groves, he was one of my favourite players. Old Perry.
Well, the funny thing is, I think when he played for the Arsenal, Perry Groves, and that's where he mainly played for. He wasn't my favourite player. Nothing against him, but he had so many great players around him, the Rocastles, the Smiths, and the whole. And he was a number 12, I would say. He wasn't the first choice. But going forward years and looking at it again, prospectively, and looking at games, I definitely underrated him. He was the type of guy that can open certain defences that the rest of the team couldn't do. He had speed, he was direct, and at times he did things that he was unplayable. I'm not saying he was the greatest dribbler in the world. He had that knack of knowing when to push that ball past that player, going past him. They just couldn't catch him. So I'm underestimating him.
He wasn't one of our greats, but he was one of my favourites because he
very
had
effective
personality and character, didn't he? I mean, he gave 100%.
I never knew he was an Arsenal supporter until 10 years ago. 20 years or whatever.
Had you been to any cup finals before that one?
My first cup final. League Cup final was I went against Leeds when they beat us 8-9, 68-9.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I cried that game. Because not so much we got beat, Rob. It was my first, but the way Leeds beat us. I'm having a go at Bob here because you supported Leeds then, right? I just thought I'd tell you.
Oh, no. I might have
Rob, can we cut him off? Have you got the thing there to cut him off? I'm looking to cut him off. No?
I wouldn't say I supported. I had a bit of a soft spot for him for a very short period.
Yeah, I had a soft spot for them as well, but I won't go into that. But I come out, I was crying because the way they beat us. But the first time I'd really seen a team time waste and cheat and if whatever you like to that extent. Like someone had went 1-0 up, and it was a bit of a dodgy goal. Terry Cooper. That was the first time I used to see a centre half get in front of the goalkeeper, lean on him, and then the goalie couldn't get, Bob Wilson couldn't get it. He went to Terry Cooper who smashed it in. Anyway, from that goal, they wasted.
Melvyn, wasn't he?
It might be Furnell. Could have been Furnell for that game, wasn't it?
68. I think Bob was 69 against Swindon. I went to the 69 one. I didn't do.
That's another one. It's another one I shouldn't talk about. But they wasted so much. If a thrower was getting, if they had a throw on and it was at the left back position, they'd get the right winger to take it. So they'd come all the way around. And it was like, oh no. They used to kick players, and then they used to be on the deck. It was about, I thought I was watching Newcastle United from this year, you know what I mean? It's that bad it was. Yeah, exactly. Right, so that was great to win that 2-1, and George Graham in his first year to win something. You know, there's a lot of parallels being made between George Graham and our Mikel Arteta, and there are a few. The way George got his team together. I mean, what he did, he sold. I think Tony Woodcock went that season. Div Anderson, terrific player, at the end of the previous season, and he sold Keown. You know why he sold him? He wanted more money. You know what he wanted, Keown?
£50 more money, wasn't it, or something?
That's it, £50 a week he wanted. So that weren't going to happen. So we sold him for 125,000. I don't know if we sold him to Everton or Aston Villa. I know he played for both, but we sold him to those.
Villa.
Villa, was it? Right, Villa. But I'll tell you something. He brought him back. He knew he'd brilliant for him to buy him back. He wasn't worried about what people say. If he was right for the team, George Graham would buy the player. So that was great.
He paid him more than 50 quid a week when he brought him back.
Yeah. And he paid a bit more.
Another reason why. Yeah, the reason why I ask you that is because I'm so pleased that we got to that final, because it's one time I could experience the old Wembley proper cup final, because it's nothing like it. It was 100,000 people, mostly standing up. The noise, the volume is like nothing I've experienced. When you know that thing when there's a near miss, and there was about a second, and then you got if Liverpool had a near miss, there was a second of silence, and the wall of ooh just hit you. It was like, wow, just seeing all the heads of 100,000 people, incredible.
50,000 people going ooh.
yeah.
But later on, if you played an FA Cup final, you know, in May when it was sunny, and the teams coming out in their colours, that long walk, oh, that was fantastic, and the crowd going mad. That was a great, and also the people at the far end saw the teams first. So as you say, like all the cheering started all the way around. It was brilliant. That's fantastic.
Did you do 71 against Liverpool?
Yeah. I stood behind the goal then. I stood behind the goal at Charles.
Wow.
I saw the ball get hit. I saw it, and in my brain, a millisecond, I had a brain then. All I thought was, I want to see the net shudder. I remember thinking that. I want to, because I couldn't follow the ball. Obviously, I know he hit it, but I just thought, I want to see the net shudder. Once it shuddered, I went up in the air with a friend of mine I went with, and oh, dear, unbelievable.
What a game.
If I wasn't an Arsenal supporter then, I'm definitely, that done it for me. It was like, I just can't.
Yeah, I watched it at home with my dad, but my brother got a ticket. He went, but after Swindon, I had to wait until Ipswich, and of course, we lost that as well, didn't we? So
that was a nightmare.
Third time lucky for me against Man United, but
yeah. So now then, he brought. I know that he didn't bring the play. He didn't give them their debuts, George, but he gave them their head. A lot of these footballers, he gave them a chance to establish himself in the first team. People like Tony Adams, established himself. In fact, he made him captain that first season. He was only 21 against Spurs on March the 6th, which is amazing. He had he gave Rocastle more time on the pitch, Quinn, Hayes, and he bought, though he never played for us that year, Alan Smith. In fact, he played against us after we signed him, didn't he?
I think he did. Yeah.
For Leicester, he played.
Yeah.
Do you know that, Rob? What he done?
Oh yeah, that's a vague memory. Yeah,
A player who signed for the Arsenal was playing against the Arsenal at Highbury.
Yeah.
That's weird.
The two big names, mate, you missed Dixon and Bold. Eh? God, blimey.
yeah.
Did he buy him that year or the next year? I thought we bought him the next year.
Yeah, I think he probably was.
Yeah, the next year.
Not
excited. He bought both of them. No, he bought them before Smith, surely.
No, Smith was his first proper, not his first signing, but his first big signing was Smith. I remember that the year before. Yeah, definitely. Now, I'll tell you a couple of. I'll tell you what we were. We were in a bit of a state, the club, because we had a very good start. We went 10 games. I think we had no wins in 10 games. I think we only drew 2 of them. The rest we lost. And the club was in financial debt to the tune, which doesn't sound a lot now, £100,000. And we needed to get £25,000 attendance to keep afloat, also to break even. But one of the games I did go to, and it was horrible, was a Man United away in the league. They beat us 2-0. Rocastle got sent off. And in the first couple of minutes, Whiteside was playing, and he kicked O'Leary in the head. Right, and we thought, oh my God, nothing. Referee, obviously, Man United, nothing. And then later on, Rocastle and Whiteside were having a bit of a tussle the whole game. Rocastle took him out, and he got sent off, obviously. Rocastle got sent off. That was horrible. Look at these attendances, right? This is home to Southampton. Not a bad attendance. I mean, you've got to remember that things were different then, but 38,000. And that was our centenary year that year. And that was the game they had the big programme for 100 years. Sheffield Wednesday, 20,000. Spurs, 44. Coventry, listen to this, 17,000 we got at home to Coventry. And at Coventry, which is Highfield Road then, 11,000. 11,000. Football was on its knees.
Yeah.
Yeah, Newcastle away. How many do you reckon was at Newcastle when we played Newcastle away? What was the attendance?
Because I remember going to a Newcastle away game and you literally just walked in. 15.
No, we're not bad. A bit more, 22,000. Right, go on to the next season. This is the League Cup. Talk about we come 6th in the league. In the League Cup, we got to the final where I wish we wouldn't have got to the final. We did. You know what happens? We played Luton. And anything that could have gone wrong that game went wrong. For us, I went with my father and my uncle, and I think my brother came with. We couldn't park the car. I think we parked it next door where we lived. It was so far away. They started putting in these parking restrictions around Wembley. When we got to our seat, which was right at the front, they never told us on the ticket is that they had a mesh in front of us like that, so we couldn't actually see what really perspective was going. But then obviously the game never helped, did it? Getting beat and we were well fancied, obviously, because Luton were. I think they were in the same division.
Yeah, I think they were, but we had chance after chance after chance.
We missed the penalty.
Missed the penalty that Rocky died for. To be fair. I remember George Graham didn't play Stevie Williams, did he? For that game, he dropped him.
That's right. Yeah,
he fell out with him, and Steve Williams is such a good player.
He was brilliant.
Gus Caesar did what he did. Kicked the ball.
Yeah, he fell over, and the rest is our history.
I was trying to find George Graham's signings because I was trying to double check with Dixon and Bold, but I couldn't find it. So that Luton game was horrendous because where I live now Luton's the nearest team, so we got loads of Luton fans around here, and we should have absolutely won that 3-4 easily. I mean, we were all over them, and it was that wasn't a good day, was it?
No, we missed 1-on-1s, didn't we?
And they scored. We when they scored their winner, we had no way of coming back, did we?
No, right at the end, right? Last couple of minutes.
What we did that
wouldn't be the last time.
Your worst Wembley experience, Melvyn?
My worst Wembley. That was
you were young for Leeds. I know we had that.
Leeds was horrible. I've had some bad ones, Bob. I've had Leeds was bad, obviously. This one was bad, obviously. Also, obviously, that wasn't a final at Wembley. It was the Spurs when they beat us 3-1.
Yeah, that was bad.
FA Cup semi-final. That was horrendous.
Birmingham one was.
Oh, Birmingham, yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, I was going to say that's got to be mine. That was horrendous. What a feeling that was.
I think the Luton one was
incredible.
My worst.
I had a brain freeze.
Quite young. I wasn't too upset because I was young and it kind of went over my head a bit, but. The Luton one hurt the most for me. But
I had a brain freeze, the Birmingham one, because when they scored their goal, I just left. I said, I'll see you later. I went into the causeway and I thought, I'll wait for the second half of the extra time and I go back in. I forgot that was the second half of that extra time. So I was on the final whistle and everyone's coming out. I had a brain. We're so emotional, you lose the sense of things sometimes. Right, gentlemen, we're going to see a little few things here. This is the 5-6 season. George Graham. Don't know if you can see that clearly. That's what they used to do in the programs, as you may recall, is have the managers chat because there's no such thing as the internet then. So all these things, talking about that was brilliant. Talking about things like that. Talking about what's going on in the club.
We had teletext.
Yeah, you were a very patient guy, Bob, weren't you? We're reading teletext, wait for it to come through.
Well, my old dad, he loved his Arsenal and he loved his football, and he would spend hours watching teletext refresh.
Teletext.
CFATs.
Are you sure? This is the 6-7 Southampton team. Who we got there? We got Shilton in goal. Some good players there.
What Forest team? That was a good team there, that Forest team. Just Southampton, I mean. That's a good team.
Who was in our team? Yeah, look at that team there. God, terrific.
This team, you were right, mate.
That's not the match, is it? Paul Davis and Glenn.
No, I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. No, it's not. But he brought Thomas and Merson into the team, George Graham, this season. Alan Smith, who he bought the season before, scored 16 goals for us that season. 11 in the Prem. And number 2 was the guy who scored lots of penalties for us, Michael Thomas, who he put in the team. And he bought Dixon that year and Marwood. I'd tell you what, not a great game for us that year. We played away at Southampton, got beat 4-2. What happened there? Do you remember? What about you, Rob? Do you remember what happened that game? Once I tell you, no, it's when Alan Shearer on his debut scored a hat-trick against us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, question for you guys. You mentioned Marwood. Did he make his debut for us away to Oxford?
Well, I don't know.
I got an idea he might have done because I reckon
there's something on
over there.
I'm not too sure. There's something about my Marwood coming up. I've got. It might be in this. If you can read it, I'll probably put it up there in a minute. Marwood.
I think he might have made his debut for us away to Oxford, and me and my old brother went to that because I just happened to remember that game.
He wasn't with us along either, Marwood. I think he had an injury at the finish, but he was a very good player.
Very good player.
In the this is what happened this season as well.
Did he upset George? Weren't he the players' representative to go and ask for some more money from him?
Yeah, he was the players' rep. I don't know if that's the reason. I think he got an injury
afterwards, and George sold him, and they all stayed on less money.
I don't know. You could be right. I thought we had an injury because he didn't play for us for a long time when we had him.
Yeah, I think he was seen as a bit of an agitator because he was representing the players, and apparently I read it in one of the books that all the players were going to be behind him, and he went to speak on their behalf, and then
they all ran away.
Where are you?
No, you're right. He did. He made his debut against Oxford, 30th of March.
And you went to that?
What year was that? 87.
Yeah,
88. It says here.
Or 88. Okay, well, I went to that game.
Now then,
Yeah.
we had a famous FA Cup tie that year, 7-8, home. We beat a certain team 2-0. And it was, I remember that as well. We beat Man United 2-1. And that was famous for the miss by McClare in the last minute penalty.
When Winterburn gave him
Winterburn went up to him, gave him the big one. And that's why it all started off at Old Trafford a year or two later. We're all kicked off. They weren't in love with each other, they tell me. I don't know.
No, they all hated each other, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, the best thing about that season, I suppose, we did the double over Spurs, beating them 2-1 twice. So that was good. And listen to this for attendances. Luton away. How many? Kenilworth Road.
9,000.
Go on, Rob. You said 9. Higher or lower?
9,001.
No, Bob wins it then. 8,000.
Oh.
I thought I'd gone a bit low there. I thought it might have been double figures.
Well, Forest away was 18,000. 18,000.
It's like the plastic pitch as well.
Oh, that's got plastic pitch. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, let's look at a few of these things. I've got these program things. What have I got here? What's this say? I can't read that. This is inside the program. The first page inside gave you all this information: cups that we've won, ticket prices, and you got Graham Ricks there to a prize winner. All stuff like that. It was more of a community type page than anything else. Do you remember that, Bob? That type of thing?
Yeah, I used to like looking at all the what we'd won, and then I'd always had a bit of an interest in the directors, who was who, and that always not as a younger guy, but as I got older, I always, when I was sitting up with you, we were right next to the director's box.
That's right.
So
yeah,
you used to be able to see him, and dear old Arnie, Dean, and Alan sat in front of us, and David would come over and speak to them, and Richard Carr used to sit right next to me dad. Because although he used to sit in the end seat, right on the end of the director's box, and it was literally over the little fence to my dad, So, But
we used to have Rob's great seats, East Upper. We were in the second row, middle, by the director's box, as Bob said. And Bob was one behind in the cheap seats, obviously. And but in the row in front of me, I don't know if you probably know, all these famous actors and actresses used to come, or famous people.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
They were the spare seats the directors had. If there was an overflow from the director's box.
Do you know how we got our seats there, Melvyn? I'll tell you a quick little story without boring everybody. But the very first time we sat up there, we got them from Keith Prowse Ticket Agency.
I remember that, Keith Prowse, yeah.
That's where we got them from. And we'd been in all different parts of the ground, the North Bank, the schoolboy enclosure, standing over on the west side, all sorts. And but anyway, we got these tickets from Keith Prowse, and we loved them, And then I actually wrote to Sue Compton, who's the box office manager.
I know Sue. I actually know Sue.
Yeah, well, she'll remember this because she married David Miles, didn't she?
That's it. That's it.
So we wrote to her, and or I rang her or something like that, and she laughed, and because I said we'd like to have those seats as season ticket for 80. That it was 86 for George Graham. We all got all excited that George was coming. And she had to ask David Dean's permission to give those as season tickets. And apparently he must have said yes. So because the season had started and we'd missed a couple of games, she said, it's not worth having a season ticket book. I'll send you all the individual tickets.
Wow.
So we got 3 seats, and then we got all the individual tickets for every, for the 90% of the games arrived in a little C6 manila envelope. That probably cost them a penny, and it was this thick, and it was handwritten. All these tickets just arrived in the door. Then the following year, we had proper season ticket books, like everyone had. And when did we leave Highbury? So we must have been
2005, 6 was it, or something? Was it?
6? Yeah. So that's nearly 30 years we sat there with you.
The funny thing is, we got our tickets.
20 years.
We got our seat. I didn't sit that I was in the North Bank or whatever, but I didn't get it until I worked. But look at this. Do you recognise this geezer?
Joe,
that's the man.
How is he? He's still knocking about. Is he still going?
He passed away about 8-9 years ago.
And he was your uncle.
my uncle. He's the reason I'm an Arsenal supporter, and I thank him for that.
Yeah, well, I remember Joe. Must have been. Yeah, it was 20 years we sat behind you, and
Yeah,
Joe,
what a character.
Oh, you're oldest.
He was brilliant. But what happened was Joey used to get the same tickets off of Arsenal, go and pay for them. And then he was very best friends with George Easton, who used to pay for the Arsenal.
Yeah.
And George said to him one day, why'd you go? He said, well, I've got to get my tickets. They're great seats. I don't want to lose them. He says, do you want a season ticket? And then he goes, all right then. And George Easton got us the season tickets. What, me? I wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
The clan, as they say. But and he got them for us, George Easton. And that was it. Never looked back.
Up there, it was a nice.
Fantastic characters up there. Lovely people.
I missed a beat when we moved to the other place because we could have all moved together, but my dad decided he wasn't going to go anymore, and I couldn't get there when I needed to get there or something. It was all big mistake. I ended up sitting across the other side and had to move seats a couple of times before we got somewhere that we quite like. But are all that old crowd still sitting together near you, Melvyn?
No, but I still keep in contact. Do you remember Stan?
Yeah.
The guy always used to eat before the game peanuts and tangerines, and I speak to him quite a bit. I don't sit near him, but I speak to him quite a bit. I've known Stan for years.
Alan Dean, near you?
Alan Dean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sits the other side of the aisle now. I used to sit behind him.
In front of us, and then for years at the Emirates, I hadn't seen him, and I bumped into him just outside, like I did you actually.
That's
just
right, yeah.
Randomly bumped into him and had a chat. But
he hasn't changed at all.
No, neither of you, Melvyn.
Oh, thank you very much. Right, let's go on to this. Then what we've got here? So Spurs. Is it a Spurs team there? Let's look how strong the Spurs team was around about then.
I mean, I'm glad they didn't, but why did they not do better in the league? It was with those players.
No.
Spurs, of course, they were never going to do any good, are they?
It's incredible, incredible players. I mean, Glenn Hoddle, Chris Waddle, Clive Allen. Clive Allen didn't stop scoring, did he? Ray Clemens.
It was quality, Rob. It was quality in that team. A lot of quality in that team. But one they missed when he went back to Scotland, Richard Gough. He was a quality player. Yeah. Do you remember him, Richard Gough?
Oh yeah.
Do give up, you two. Talk about the guys on the left.
That's true. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, all right, go on. Yeah, God, some players there as well, but some of them were coming.
What about Stuart Robson? He was a bit of a disappointment. He was because he was a top player, wasn't he? But I mean, it was injury got him, wasn't it? He had a bad injury.
Absolutely right. Injury.
He was never the same player after he got injured, was he?
He had a dodgy knee.
Yeah.
I think he played for West Ham and Coventry after us, but never hit the heights. He was our captain, another very young captain.
Yeah, he was a very good player. Good player.
I don't know if you can see that, gentlemen. That's Brian Marwood, signed by George Graham that season, 7-8.
Yeah, great player.
And this is what the black back cover used to look like.
Yeah.
Not the teams, adverts, JVC, because we were sponsored by JVC then.
Yeah, JVC and Arsenal, the perfect match.
Oh dear, fantastic! And that was the report on us beating Everton in the semi-final, which Perry Groves had a big part to play in that semi-2 leg.
Perry Groves scored a cracking goal, didn't he? Away to Everton.
Yeah, fantastic.
But I remember the home leg being outside and trying to get in the stadium, and there was one point. I mean, I'm 6'4". So I'm not small. There's one point when my feet was off the ground in the crowds, and it was quite a moment. And you think it wasn't long after you had Hillsborough. It was a real eye opener about what was actually going on at football crowds. No, there was no control over what was going on.
No one cared, Rob. We were animals, mate.
No, exactly. It was incredible what was going on outside that ground.
Yeah. Horrible. I mean, I remember going to, I think I mentioned it before somewhere on one of these shows. I went away used to go away. Joey used to take me, went away at Palace. And at the end of the game, we got up to go and nothing was moving. There was no problem. It's just nobody was moving. The ground, the exits weren't correct for the ground. And I said to my uncle, I said, Jeremy, I went, if there's a fire here, we are in a mess. And it was a lot of that. It was wooden as well, some of that palace ground then, Selhurst Park. And it definitely dawned on me, this is not right. This cannot be right. But anyway, that's what it is. That's what it's like everything else. Unless you know any different, or unless something drastic happens, nothing changes. Everyone thinks, well, it might happen, but as I say, they don't do anything until, I hate to say.
Well, that's it's like everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
This is the cover of a Spurs game. We used to have different covers every week. Like years ago, it used to be the same cover week in, week out. But that was one of the. Is that Tony Adams? I can see, or was that in the cover?
It's Mercy.
Was that Mercy?
Oh, it's Mercy. It's the Mercy.
Yeah,
of course, it's the Mercy.
He was a great player, wasn't he?
Oh, terrific player.
Oh, what a player! What a player!
He was really good. We've had some really good players, haven't we?
Now this is a strange one.
Is that Richardson, bottom left?
Yeah, Kevin Richardson, great player.
Yeah, he was very underrated, wasn't he?
Very much so. This was the game just before, the last home game, before we played the semi-final against Luton. And they're showing us winning the cup the year before. That was a little bit premature, wasn't it, to do that? It's un-Arsenal, that.
That's a bit. Really? Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's from the year before, yeah. I thought that's not really.
Oh, okay. So it's a preview, but they're showing us with the cup the year before.
Yeah, that we won the year before.
It's a bit Spursy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very Spursy, yeah. Yeah, did I have that? The Southampton.
£1. How much are programs now?
I think they're 3.5, aren't they?
It's not going to have that much then. What's £1 there?
Let's have a look. Hold on, I want to get the Southampton.
Yeah, pound, top right, isn't it?
Got it. Yeah, pound. Right, now then, this is, I'm going to go, let's get rid of that, as I say. Just to do a couple of things here. Go back in time, 1987. This is what world events happened around about that time. The Simpsons, the first Simpsons cartoon was shown. What else was done? Yeah, this is horrible. A cross-channel ferry capsized outside the harbour of Zeebrugge.
Oh, yes.
193 people. Horrible.
Yeah, horrible.
I knew people that was on that got off.
Really?
Survived, yeah.
Oh, dear.
They got off. Oh,
yeah,
God.
Yeah. A lady that used to hairdresser used to cut my ex-wife's hair. They were on it, but they got off.
Oh dear. The Great Southern British Storm of '87. That was Michael Fish, wasn't it?
All the trees come down.
That's right.
Big trees, yeah.
Michael Fisher, nothing to worry about him, boys. Yeah, boys, nothing to worry about. And that same day or the day after, the Wall Street crashed. It went down 508 points, which then was a 22.5% drop. So it's only at 2,000. It's now 33,000 the Wall Street. It went 22% down in a day. I remember it. I was in the markets then. It was not great to do that. Not great to be living around there, living at that time in the markets. King's Cross fire. You remember the underground fire at King's Cross?
Yeah.
Killed 31 people. It's horrible.
Yeah. Cigarette.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the
same decade. Bradford was a cigarette, wasn't it?
Who was?
Bradford. The Bradford fire.
That's it. Yeah, that was also to do with a cigarette, I think, as well.
Decade, I guess. There was a lot of tragedy in the 80s, wasn't there? If you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh dear. These are the films that were very good. You know, they were well known at that time. People were going to 3 Men and a Baby, Fatal Attraction. Remember that?
What a film!
That was a brilliant film, wasn't it? Oh dear, yeah. Well, Beverly Hills Cop 2, which I prefer the first one, as they say, and one of my favourite actors in the next film, Good Morning Vietnam. Remember that one?
Yeah.
The Untouchable.
I think he just ad-libbed the whole film, didn't he? I don't think he kept any
he was
script.
a genius. He was a pure genius. He was as nutty as a fruitcake, but absolute genius. He was non-stop. His brain must have been running at 90 miles an hour, I reckon. He was just boom, 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 boom. Fantastic. What a performer. One of the best ever. He could do anything. The Untouchables, Stakeout, Lethal Weapon. I'll tell you what, The Last Emperor. Also famous at that time. I mean, what a film to bring out. It was a bad timing. Wall Street. Dirty Dancing.
Perhaps it was good timing, Melvyn.
Yeah, perhaps.
I don't know
Dirty Dancing.
what the takings were, but perhaps they was up.
God, you just remember it like it was yesterday, all these films. You do remember them. RoboCop.
I saw Dirty Dancing for the first time last year after so many people going, you haven't seen it? And I saw
You've not seen it?
Bloody hell. What a load of rubbish.
Oh, no.
The most cheesiest film you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? It was good. It was good quality cheese, Rob. Come on. Good quality cheese.
It was Edam.
I loved it. Oh, yeah. The scenes were fantastic. Oh, fantastic. I like that. Now, there's bands that were quite popular in those days. Not saying they'd started, but they were popular. Michael Jackson with his Bad album came out. Lionel Richie came out with a couple of albums. Fleetwood Mac, brilliant. Peter Gabriel, Janet Jackson. Who else we got there? Heart, which basically they were big in England, but not that big, were they? They were big. And I saw this film a few weeks ago about this woman, this singer. Whitney Houston's come out with a film. I saw it. She was a great singer. You into Whitney Houston?
She was brilliant. I saw her live in concert once. I would say one of, if not the best female singer ever. I think she was fantastic.
She's amazing. What a performer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bit sad, the film, obviously, but
yeah,
good film. George Michael was around then with Faith. Oh, this is a group. Well, of a sort. Bananarama. Loving the First Degree single came out.
Great.
That'll be your street, isn't it, Rob? That'll be your street, Bananarama, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Great mimers.
They done a comeback recently, haven't they?
That's right, yeah.
You haven't got Spandau Ballet on your list there, have you, Melvyn?
No, I can't see Spandau Ballet, but they're Arsenal. We don't mind them at all, do we?
Well, exactly. That's, yeah.
True. Very true.
I went to Anderlecht on the Eurostar with them for European Cup. Not the original game. Much later. I don't know what 10 years ago did we play them? They were all on our train going from King's Cross. That was St Pancras.
Were they talkative? Did you manage to speak to them?
Oh yeah, they were massively down to earth.
I think they are down to earth.
Having a drink, just proper gooners. After Brussels for the Anderlecht game. Good. Brilliant.
Now some TV programs. Magnum. Remember that Magnum?
Yeah. Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck, yeah. Hill Street Blues, one of my favourites. Don't know if you ever saw that. No? Yeah. Yes.
It had quite a catchy
tune.
Tune, didn't it?
The tune was amazing, but it was a very good. Neighbours was around then. That's making a comeback, someone told me the other day.
It's only just had his last one, isn't it?
But they're making a comeback, It's like Frank Sinatra, another comeback, Cheers was about then. That was good.
I used to watch Neighbours and Cheers in the 80s, but Cheers was fun, wasn't it?
Right, this is a good one. Who was born this year, 87? Was Lionel Messi was born.
Wow.
Michael Jordan was born. I don't recognise any of the other names. Who's Hilary Duff? Any idea? Not a clue. Anyway, she was born. Keep you in touch. Right, now then. You know what happened that year? The first criminal was convicted using DNA. That's when I stopped doing all my wrong ones. I've become a good boy after 87. So I thought it was the best thing to do. Right, a bit of a test here. Not some of them are in line, some of them are not. I've got here prices of what things were in 87. So, right, let's have a little look here.
Have you got a ticket in the East Upper on your list?
Have I got what?
A ticket in the East Upper.
I have that sometimes. Hold on. I normally have that. Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what I have. I've got West Upper, Bob. What was a West Upper seat that year?
What, for an individual game, not season
Yeah,
ticket?
no, not a season ticket, no.
I have no idea, and I'm rubbish at this, but I'll guess at a £5.
£7.
All right.
East Lower,
£3.
£4.50. No, I said £4, Rob, sorry, yeah, £4.50. Right, very quickly, we go through this one. A pint of beer. Go on, you both have a go.
80p.
What are you saying, Bob?
£1.
Oh, not bad, 86p.
Yeah.
And that in today's money is £2.10. So it was cheaper then, wasn't it?
Really?
What's a pint of beer now? £4 or £5?
Oh, at least £5, I think.
Yeah,
All
so
depends where you get it. I mean, I went into Weatherspoons Saturday.
Weatherspoons you get for £3.
I couldn't believe it. I hadn't been in one for years. It was £2 something a pint in Milton Keynes. Weatherspoons in Milton Keynes. I thought they'd made a mistake, but
cool. Right, this is
premium beer. You're looking at over £5, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm not a drinker, but I imagine it would be 20 cigarettes. I know that I don't smoke, but I don't know if you two smoke or have done. No. Well, basically,
Funny, I hate the smell of smoke, but at the football game it was different. It was part.
Yeah, it was different. I agree.
I enjoyed it.
It added to the atmosphere, didn't it, Rob?
Yeah, it
Especially
did.
at Highbury. Well, 20 cigarettes all those years ago cost £1.43, which in today's money is £3.50. I don't know what they cost. I think it's over a £5 a packet now.
So in that case, a pint of beer has gone up more than cigarettes.
Yeah.
From what you just said.
Yeah, this is it. Dixon's, a 22-inch Logic Colour TV.
22-inch.
I think they give you a binoculars with that.
Rob, that would have been big. That would have been big in those days, wouldn't it?
22-inch.
Yeah. Go on, how much?
But the thing is, we used to rent them though, don't we? We used
That's
to rent
it. Radio rentals.
Yeah.
Fusion.
So they must have been really expensive to rent them. You know, if you had to rent them to buy outright, it must have been really expensive.
That's why, obviously.
No. So, I mean, I don't know, £500.
What are you saying, Bob?
£300.
Bob's very close. Really. £230, which equivalent to £560. You know why it was cheaper as well, Rob, to rent it? Because years ago, televisions always used to go wrong.
Right.
You used to have a television guy come round, put a new Vol, they used to call it in, and that added to the cost. Oh, you know, all the vertical's gone wrong and the horizontal hole's gone wrong. And in a similar vein, a Sanyo VHS recorder from Comet.
Yeah, again, used to rent video recorders as well, didn't we?
Yeah. Are we talking VHS? Betamax there, Melvyn.
No Betamax. I had a Betamax. Believe it or not, I had a Betamax. Yeah.
£180.
Right, and what are you saying, Bob?
I reckon the same as a telly, 230.
320. Which equivalent is 770. Yeah.
Well, that was £100 more than a telly.
Yeah. I got very. I mean, yeah. This is not going to shock you at all.
I knew someone
house price.
I knew someone who sold their telly so they could get a video recorder.
Well, I've got a story at work. There's a geezer at work, not the sharpest tool in the box. They were selling, must have been knocked off. I don't know if it was knocked off VHSs recorders because no one could get them years ago. It was basically a high-priced item, and the companies weren't producing them quickly enough. It was a new item, a new kind of invention. So some fell off the back of a lorry, I reckon. They were knocking them out for I think a couple of £100. So this firm had them, and we go, yeah, we'll have one. This one, I'll have one. That will have one. Anyway, the next day the geezer comes in. They're all sitting in the office, and he starts going into one. The recorder you sold me, it's crap. What's the matter? It's no good. You've cheated me. I'll give you good money. And he was going on and on and on. And so the secretary in this big office turns around and goes to him. So I say his name. Went, have you tuned it into the telly properly? And he goes, telly? I thought it worked by itself. Yeah. Telly.
Lovely.
Yeah. Oh, dearie me, dearie me. Right, what else we got here?
House
House price.
house
The last
price.
one we're going to do tonight. Average house price. What do I bid?
Blimey.
What do I bid?
33 grand.
Right.
What the average? The average.
Average.
22 grand.
No, it's more than that. It's 54, which in today's money would be £130,000.
Oh well.
Now, I don't normally do this. This is the 12th show I've done, and I don't normally do this, but I just want to say, isn't it nice being an Arsenal supporter? And I don't normally bring it up to current times, but I've got to get that one in. Sorry. Isn't it a pleasure to go and watch the Arsenal? That's all I'll say.
The Emirates is a different place at the moment.
Oh, isn't it just?
We're lucky to have Arteta, aren't we? After all the shit we've had the last years, he's really transformed the team and the fans, and it's a joy to have, kind of everyone's united. Everyone's on the same page, and we let a goal in, and everyone gets behind the team straight away.
Yeah,
I know.
It's like we're all in it together, aren't we?
I've never been in an atmosphere like that. I mean, Highbury was different with the atmosphere because I think you used to get 38,000 when it was all seater. That's the most you could get, and I know it was 60,000 probably when it was standing, but you very rarely got 60,000 fans in the game. You used to get the odd game, but the atmosphere is mind blowing. It's electric.
Yeah.
And what I do
Highbury when it was seated is total different to Highbury when it's all standing.
Correct, absolutely.
It was, yeah.
And Highbury seated, I'm afraid I'm going to upset a lot of people here, is not as good as what the Emirates is now.
No, the Emirates now is different gravy.
Yeah.
And the football
that's the way it was.
Oh.
They've both been a bit quiet at times. I mean, Highbury.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it was the Highbury Library, and the Emirates has been dire at times, but yeah, at the moment.
The only thing with Highbury Library is it wasn't during the end of the reign when we were having those amazing European nights against Real Madrid and Juventus. They were amazing. Highbury came alive those nights, but generally it wasn't the best when it's just all seated, unfortunately.
No. But that goes for a lot of grounds, doesn't it? It's not just not.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's a football thing, isn't it?
And the Emirates has been like that, ever since. But it's come alive now. It really has.
Where do you sit, Rob?
I sit lower North Bank towards the left corner.
Right. Oh, lovely.
So it's really good seat.
I don't think you're far from me. I mean, I'm in block 14. I reckon I'll be just to your left.
11.
Yeah. 11, so I'll be just to your left.
So
you might bump into each other now.
Yeah, well, we'll have to have a beer. Now we're celebrities. We'll chat about our commission and our royalties, and we'll get back to you, Melvyn.
Where do I send the money, Bob? Where do I got to send the money to? And also, when you spoke to Spandau Ballet, tell me the truth. Did you say you knew me?
No.
Oh no! What's the matter with you? Got bonus points for that.
Who's is it Declan? The Declan fella. He's a big gooner, isn't he? What's his other name? Declan. He was with them. Oh, my son was chatting to him. I didn't even know who he was to start with.
Was he? What
TV presenter, DJ Declan?
Oh, I'm not good at DJs. No, not DJs. No.
Oh, anyway,
it was my generation.
It was good. It was a good trip, Anderlecht away. We was 1-0 down, weren't we, till about 94 minutes, and scored twice and won 2-1. Absolutely daylight robbery it was.
Yeah, I've been to a few away games like that when we've done.
Do you think ever since the lockdown, and then we've come back from all that terrible things that went on, the atmosphere has changed at the Emirates ever since then?
Definitely. I made a vow. I used to get there half hour before the game. I used to get, and then I used to leave on the final whistle. I was like half up. I was on the turn on the final whistle. Now I stay behind. It might be 10 minutes in the ground, letting the teams come up, clapping them. I then go down, and sometimes I might meet someone by the Tony Adams statue, a bit of sing song. I know with my voice.
I don't think it's just what Arsenal are doing. I think there's definitely a change ever since.
Yeah. Rob, I said
we all
before
go to games.
I said to the guys before I went back, I said, right now I'm going to appreciate going to Arsenal. I didn't appreciate it before. Now I'll tell you what I've done. It's my wedding anniversary a couple of days ago, and this is what I don't even say that. This is the wife got me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's Ruth Arts did that.
Yeah,
She's terrific. You know Ruth?
Yeah, I see her on Twitter and stuff. Yeah,
she's brilliant. Good. I mean, there's other, as they say, there's other good artists as well, but she, for me, superb. I suppose it's on the wall, but I'm useless putting stuff up. There's wait for my brother's coming around next week. He can help me out with that. But that's where
beautiful.
We are.
Absolutely beautiful.
It's fantastic.
It's so good.
That sums up Highbury. I mean, the wife got it framed for me, and then that sums up Highbury for me. That's where we used to stand, Bob, before the game. Joey, me, and my dad, and a couple of Joey's brothers, and watch all the players coming in and out the marble halls.
Yeah, well, they used to park up the road. They'd walk down, wouldn't they?
That's right.
At one point, it was very different.
That's what we used to do.
Yeah, that stadium, that facade, that would have been exactly the same as that in the late 30s when my dad went.
That's right.
Absolutely
superb, that, honestly. What a view! What a drawing that is! What a sketch!
Yeah.
One of the things I say.
Have a look at her stuff. Who hasn't seen it? Have a look at her stuff. It's off the radar.
Anyone that's that likes that sort of stuff should go to Everton, shouldn't they? Whether it's to see the Arsenal play or just to go, because I think Goodison Park is the nearest experience to the old Highbury.
You're right. It's a lovely stadium.
Yeah,
real old school stadium.
18 months, 2 years.
No.
Old school. Old school. Mm. Yeah, old school. Lovely. I've never been there. I've never been to Everton. I've been to most.
I went there once. I went there once, and what I liked is there is an actual pub right next to the ground for away fans.
Right.
Yeah.
So you are looked after as an away fan. I thought
it's a great
nice touch.
Melvyn, go get a ticket somehow. Go
right,
to
before they change it.
Yeah, because it'll be.
And you get a real sense it's a family club as well.
Yeah.
When you go to a game, they do a lot of things for the families, and there's a good feel about that club. Obviously not at the moment because the fans aren't happy, but
we got them next in the league, haven't we? We got them next.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, I think when they go to the new stadium, I think they'll lose that.
Yeah. Very passionate crowd. I mean, I've never been there, but I hear them. They're on the case, aren't they? They're really passionate fans. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it half as much as I have.
Yeah,
really enjoyed
thank you very much. Good to meet you, Rob. Hopefully, I might bump into you.
And you, Bob. Definitely.
Look
out for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Bob, I spoke to Tony before. Didn't speak to Tony. Yeah, I spoke to Tony to say you're on. So if he doesn't watch it live, I'm sure he'll watch it on the recap. So we actually never know. One day we get the three of us get together, get the old
definitely.
Days. That'd be great. That'd be great, the three of us. All right, listen, keep well, gentlemen. Thanks a lot, and let's keep it going.
The Gunners.
Let's keep it going.
Come on, you Rip Roaring Reds.